bit heavy, so this week we're going to keep it pretty light with just like an overview of Buddhism. So I'm not going to completely endorse it, I'm just going to explain it because the ideal here at the church is to learn different religions, different philosophies for living a better life. Then you can choose which one you want to follow. I also am kind of going to butcher a few of the Buddhist concepts a little bit and make them a little more modern and what I consider a little bit more helpful in the modern age. So keep that in mind. But Buddhism's based on the concept of... Hey, how's it going? You can take a seat anywhere you'd like. Buddhism's based on 4 main principles. So just so you guys know a little bit about the history of Buddhism, there was a legend that when the Buddha was born, his mother had a fortune teller come, and the fortune teller told his mother and father he's either going to be a great priest, a great religious leader, or he's going to be a great king and control a bunch of kingdoms. And the way that that's going to happen is if he sees suffering. So his parents locked him in a palace around luxury his whole life. So he had never seen old people, he had never seen sickness, he had only seen wealth. And one day the Buddha was out in the market and he seen an old man. And for the first time in his life, because he had been so repressed, he realized that the body ages. And then he seen somebody who was sick and he realized you get sick. And then he seen a corpse and he realized that you die. And then he seen somebody suffering from poverty. And he realized that there was poverty in the world. And so at that point, he ran off into the woods and became an ascetic. And he tried to deny himself a bunch of pleasures in life. And then that didn't work out for him, so he started meditating under a tree. And as he meditated, according to Buddhist lore, a bunch of spirits came to try to distract him. Pleasurable spirits, evil, scary spirits. And he was able to avoid all of that, and then he woke up enlightened. And so Buddha actually means the enlightened one. And while he was meditating under this tree and he found enlightenment, he had the first 4 principles of Buddhism. And so a couple thousand years ago, he gave his first sermon, and it was based on the 4 principles of Buddhism. He calls them the 4 Noble Truths. The first he said was that all life is suffering. It's dukkha. And what that basically means is that because of the impermanence of life, and as humans, us trying to attach ourselves, which is the second noble truth, that suffering, dukkha, arises from attachment, ignorance, or desires. Our desire for permanency in non-permanent structures creates all of our suffering in the world. And so back to the first noble truth, all life is suffering. When you are cold and you get up to a fire, you sit there for about 60 seconds, 2 minutes if you're lucky, then you're starting to sweat, so you move back from the fire. So even what brought you pleasure before, it makes you have to move back. And so that's the point. Like, you get old, you make money, you lose money, you fall in and out of love. All of these states in life are temporary. And when you're stuck in your ego, you want everything to be permanent. And so your desire is for more and permanency. And with these desires and attachment, the second noble truth, those are causing your suffering. And so the third noble truth is that there is a way, a sensation, to get out of suffering, and that is to end desire, and the desire for permanency and attachment. And that's when you reach the state of nirvana. That's a state that's outside of the ego and more into your observing mind, which we went over in prior sermons and lectures, and you guys will get acquainted with. But there's 2 types of mind. One, the thinking mind, the ego construction, I am this. It always is thinking of the future and wanting more, or stuck in the past, it's not in the present moment. And it has this construction of what you are: male, female, rich, poor, happy in the moment or sad in the moment. Whereas there's something that observes these thoughts called the observing mind, and that's the more enlightened state according to Buddhists. And so the 4th noble truth is that the way to obtain nirvana, the sensation of desire, and the end of suffering, is a thing they call the 8 noble pathways. And so those 8 fundamental pathways of how to live a better life according to Buddhism, we're going to go over in more of a modern sense. Because everybody's familiar with karma. And a lot of people think, oh, well, if I do something good today in my next life, a lot of people think something good will happen to me, or I'll reincarnate into a better life. Or if I do something bad today, I'll reincarnate lower into more suffering. And there are strands of Buddhism that think that, but in a more modern sense, in a more helpful sense for the New Age church, we're going to look at karma as a concept of what's happening right now to you. For example, if you leave here and rob a bank, you're going to create bad karma. And the consequence for that in this life is going to be going to jail. But people don't realize that karma in your modern day, real present life is a thing. And we're going to go over the 8 noble paths to see if you can reduce your own negative karma emissions in your present life and have better karma in your present life. And so, it's a million different things. And so we're going to go over that. But first, we're going to do a guided meditation. And this is kind of inspired since we had the street fair. I was feeling like pretty one with the community. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to guide you guys through a meditation. It's got 2 purposes. One is it's going to let you become in touch with yourself, your nobler self, your observing self. And then secondly, it's just going to be a cool exercise in compassion. And so if you would, close your eyes. Don't worry if thoughts pop in your head. If they do, with your eyes closed, go back to your breath. And so during this exercise, we're going to breathe all the way into our stomach slowly and all the way out of our nose. And thoughts will inevitably rise. Just go back to your breath whenever they do. So slowly breathe in deep all the way to your stomach. Slowly breathe out of your nose. And continue this breathing exercise as I go through. So I want you to imagine as you're breathing and constantly focusing on your breath, the universe starts, the Big Bang explodes. It creates the whole universe as we know it. And it's the loving energy. The universe gave birth to everything out of love. It wanted us to experience and enjoy the world. And when the Big Bang happened, it created our sun. And our sun is a warm, glowing ball of happiness and healing energy. And I want you to feel the sun touch your face. And I want you to feel the warmth on your head. And as the sun is touching your face and your head, I want you to think of it taking all the negative thoughts out of you and filling you with relaxation and positivity. Every piece of your body that the sun touches becomes completely relaxed, completely invigorated with joy and energy. I want you to feel the sun slowly drape over your shoulders. I want you to feel its warmth and its relaxation, gently massaging all the stress of the week out of your shoulders and filling you with new healthy energy and positivity. I want you to feel the sun go down your arms. I want you to feel the sun go over your chest. Feel the warmth, feel the healing, feel the positivity. And in your heart, I want you to feel the sun's rays of love, universal love, taking all the negativity out of your heart and filling it with pure positive energy. Feel the sun slowly drape over the rest of your body. Your body is completely light and completely energy now. It's completely relaxed and completely vibrant with positivity and with joy. No negative emotions can exist because the sun has irradiated them. And now I want you to see your heart become its own sun, radiating not only with the power of the universe that's still flowing in you, but also your own divinity and your own spark of positivity in your soul, creating its own little star full of positive energy. And I want you to feel that energy slowly get bigger and bigger and bigger. And as it does, it's all positive energy that's filling your body from within itself. And it's being replenished by the universal energy. And as this ball gets bigger and bigger, it's now filled all the way to your belly button, all the way up to your neck, and it's still growing. And it's filling your body with positivity and self-love and irradiating all negative energy. And now it's grown to the part where your whole body is covered in your own positive sun energy and the universal love. And now I want you to feel it expand outside the boundary of your body into the others around you. And I want you at home to feel that too. And then I want you to feel their positive energy radiating back into you. And I want you to feel the universal love from everybody. All positivity, all relaxation, all positivity. And now we're going to slowly awaken back to the present moment and just know that you're now filled with universal love and positivity. And so that's just a little step. Again, you could do these things, these exercises for hours, but this is basically showing you a little bit about compassion, becoming one with your neighbor, becoming one with yourself. And in Buddhist thought, compassion is a big deal, gratefulness is a big deal. And you may think that it's kind of a silly concept. How could you love every being in the universe? It's very tough, right? Sometimes people are hard to love. But one way to do it is to realize that people act out of ignorance. You don't get mad at a small child when they do something, they misbehave. You try to re-educate them. And it's because you realize they're acting out of ignorance. People who act in negative ways don't realize that they are acting that way. There's a meme on Facebook, which is a bad site, but it quotes the Buddha as saying, holding anger in your heart is like swallowing poison and it's expecting your enemy to die or get sick. Really, all you're doing is hurting yourself. So you have to forgive others and forgive yourself of your failings because we're only human. And if you think that it's, again, kind of silly that you could love everybody in the universe, think, for example, of like if you have a kid, or if you have a family member, or if you have a significant other. At times you've loved them more than yourself. You've used your last dollar on them. You jump in front of a train for them. If you just expand that further and further, you can see that loving somebody more than yourself is possible. And realizing that what you just felt when you were meditating and breathing deep, that universal spirit that is beyond your ego and your conception of yourself, that observing mind lives in every other being. And it is the most fundamental aspect of not only your existence, but everybody else's. So now we'll go to the Eightfold Path and try to figure out how we can create a little bit of better karma in our own life. So the first Buddhist concept of the Eightfold Path is right view. So when I was talking about ignorance leading people to bad actions, that applies to ourselves as well. And so before you can even get started on the path, you have to have a right view of reality. And so if you're walking around stuck in your thought stream, thinking that everything's going to be permanent, you're just trying to acquire as much wealth and position as possible, and not realizing that every state is temporary, and that you can still find peace in temporary states in the observing mind, by not wanting the form to always be there. If you recognize that it's faulty and that it's futile to always keep attaching to forms in a non-permanent world where forms always change, then you can start to become happy with the present moment. You just have to practice acceptance. You have to accept the present moment for whatever it is, and you'll start to realize the beauty of that. So with your observing mind, if you focus on the present moment and accept it no matter what, you'll start to get happiness. But if you always think that you're going to find a happier moment in the future, oh, if my car was just a little bit nicer, when I finish college in 4 years, and then when I get a job and when I get to retire in 30, then I'll be happy, you'll pass so many present moments, you'll never find happiness. Happiness lies within the present moment. And so the right view, according to the Buddhists, is accepting the Four Noble Truths. That life is suffering, that suffering is created by attachment to form, that can be overcome and a state of nirvana can be reached through the observing mind, but only by practicing the Eight Noble Paths. The first one, recognizing the true nature of reality. The second, and why I gave you guys this list, and at home you can write your own list, you could write here one thing you could do to create better karma next to each one of these. For example, write intention. That's a simple one. Do you act with the right intention in life? Are you acting with the intention to cheat other people? You know, if you really honestly evaluate yourself, are you trying to get ahead at the expense of somebody else? Are you trying to be mean to somebody else? Are you holding some petty anger and, you know, passively aggressively being one way? And you may think that that person deserves it, but if you can't be enlightened enough to forgive them, forgive yourself, because when you're trying to hurt other people, you're pulling yourself in to these negative mind frames. So, you know, you could think, what's one way that I could change an intention to create some better karma for myself? The next one is right speech. Well, that one's super easy. We can all change that. That's like, are you lying? And none of us want to admit we're lying. But are you lying? Let's say you have a significant other. You're telling them you still love them and you don't, instead of being honest. Are you lying in simple ways to other people? Are you lying to yourself? You know, right speech. Are you talking bad about other people? Are you talking bad about yourself? Are you constantly criticizing yourself? Are you constantly criticizing others? Are you constantly just negatively speaking about aspects and not accepting the present moment? If you evaluate your speech, is there one thing you can change to have right speech? And people think that speech is just speaking. But in Buddhism, they think that you think first, then you speak, then it leads to an action. So if you're harboring a bunch of negative thoughts that then become negative speech, it's going to lead you to negative actions as well, thus bad karma. Now we're on to right action. That's the most obvious in the physical universe, but are you doing things in your life that you could be doing less of? Over drinking, drugs, simple things in life, not exercising. Are you, doing any kind of action? Just pick one that you can pick in the upcoming week to give yourself some better karma. Now, right livelihood, that one's a little difficult, but it's pretty critical. In Buddhism, what you're doing for a living should be ethical, according to them. And so, are you making your money in a way that you don't find ethically appropriate? And I put a little new age spin on this. Is it ethical for you? Are you in a job just for the money that you don't enjoy? Are you in a job that takes too much time away from your family and friends? Do you have a boss that's a jerk? And what's a way that you can have a right livelihood? Maybe it's as simple as putting a new application in or going back to school. You should take a moment to look at that, because a lot of people work 40 hours a week or more. And if you have the wrong livelihood, it's really going to bleed over the rest of your life. Now there's right effort. That's a really confusing one in Buddhism, especially in the modern concept. But it basically means, are you putting the right effort into your life to cultivate wholesome states as compared to unwholesome states? So you could put something there like, are you purposely putting your effort into being more positive instead of negative? Are you purposely being more compassionate instead of hateful towards others? And that right effort in life goes a long way. So you should be trying to cultivate actively more positive states of thinking. And we'll do more of the Eightfold Path in future lessons, but I want to just give you guys a taste of each one. Now, right mindfulness, that's a huge one. That one we kind of understand in the modern age. That's living in the moment. Again, everything's in the present moment. So are you being mindful? Or are you squandering your whole life away trying to think that the future is going to give you some promised good, some better moment, some more valuable moment? And if you think about your life, has that ever worked? How many times have you sat and said, okay, well, I just got to power through the next 3 weeks. I've just got to power through the next 4 months and then I can have a vacation. I've got to do this, I got to do that. If you're not living in every single present moment and you're telling yourself that things are going to get better, you're gonna waste your whole entire life. And so by living in the present moment, you can have windows into the present moment. Feel what your back feels like on the chair. Take a breath and actually feel it. Listen to a sound. See what's going on in the room. So how can you be more mindful? And some ways to do this are, let's say you wash your hands. Just make a note here that for every 30 seconds that you're washing your hands, you'll actually feel yourself washing your hands. You won't be thinking about what your to-do list is. You won't be doing something else. You'll just wash your hands and make some routines in life. The more moments that you routinely become mindful, the more enlightened you'll become. And people are like, well, how am I going to get anything done? The best way to do that is pick an hour a week to worry. So whatever hour that is, whatever it is, every hour that same week, write down all your worries, but be productive about it. What do I have to do? Make a to-do list, prioritize it, and then whenever you catch yourself worrying throughout the rest of the week, you realize, no, I need to become mindful and I need to enjoy where I'm at, because it's not logical to worry anymore. My time to worry is this little compartmentalized period that I've already set aside for productive worrying. And then the rest of your week will be way more productive. Right concentration, that's the Buddhist concept of meditation. So maybe you could write down there a 5 or 10 minute slot of the day when you're going to choose to meditate. If you don't like meditating, you can come here for Meditation Monday and somebody will guide you through it. You can look up guided meditations on YouTube for free. But you want to incorporate meditation into your life, because studies have already shown that it actually shrinks the parts of the brain for aggression and fear and anxiety and grows those for compassion and happiness. You can see that on an MRI. It makes you way more happy, and it lets you commune with your actual self, your observing self. So those are the eightfold paths in a more modern sense to create instant better karma for yourself. So if you did something on that list, a little tiny step in the way, your life will start getting better. Because if you're planting all these negative seeds, negative thoughts, negative words, negative actions towards others and yourself, they will start playing out in more negative consequences. Okay, so that's enough for Buddhism today. The last concept is forest bathing. It's huge in Japan. There's even guides that take you forest bathing. And you may say, well, that seems kind of silly. According to the EPA, 93% of the day for Americans is spent inside. And you can imagine what the other 7% is like. I'm sure it's people running to their car and getting in and out. We were actually evolved and designed to be in nature. And there's a lot of effects that make you happier and healthier. For example, studies have shown that if somebody's recovering from surgery and they have a view of a forest compared to a view of a parking lot or a wall, they actually heal quicker. And medical science has shown that. Also, forest bathing, they've actually shown a review of 30 studies, and you can look this up on WebMD. They've had 30 academic studies that have shown cortisol levels drop for people who walk in the forest. That cortisone is a stress hormone. Stress is literally a killer. Leads to strokes, leads to being sicker, it leads to heart attacks, it leads to tons of bad mental states. So you can actually take somebody's blood who forest bathes and see their levels drop. According to 30 academic studies, 28 academic studies have actually shown lower activity levels of depression in adults who forest bathe. And so there's tons of other studies and tons of other health benefits and increased positivity. But the concept of forest bathing is get out there, 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, and walk in nature. And while you're out there, actually experience it, listen to the sounds of the birds. Don't have a destination, don't rush through it. Just really be one with nature. And medical science has actually shown health benefits. So that's the end of the church today. We're going to invite anybody here who'd like to go for a walk through the park. We're going to do that. Don't feel obligated. Anybody at home, I'd recommend you go find a park or go find a forest and enjoy those benefits. Thanks.